all together. I know that you know, the two main guys in front of the camera, you guys have done a lot of work, but all the people in the background as well who've, you know, put a lot of heart into it. So thank you everyone for making this come together. My name is Erik Andersson, ambassador to Hendrix Gin here on the East Coast of the US. I'm joined by Matthias Horstman, who is the ambassador on the West Coast. We have a national ambassador called, his name is Vance Anderson. And that's it. We're three guys here queuing it up with Hendrix Gin. And I'm really, really excited to share all these, the recipes that I've worked on over the last few weeks. But I'm also really excited about sharing some stories that you might not know yet of Hendrix Gin.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're really excited about that. And we're going to be getting a lot of information. We're going to be discussing, or Erik, for the most part, is going to be discussing. You call the expert in, you let him talk. So we're going to be talking about the history of gin, how Hendrix is different and fits into the market. We're going to be talking about the vision of Leslie Gracie, the master distiller there at Hendrix, and how mixology plays into that. And gin is one of those spirits that's almost always mixed. So how did she use that to kind of come up with the idea for Hendrix Gin? So all of those questions we're going to be asking and hopefully hearing from. But and just so you have even more, rather than just curiosity to stay tuned for, we've got some swag bags. Luke, you want to tell them what's in the swag bags?
Yeah, so we do have some great swag bags over here, donated by Hendrix. We have a nice fan since it is springtime and the weather will be getting warmer. This is great timing. Looks like we have a nice pair of Hendrix socks.
Nobody does branding like Hendrix.
Yeah, we've got a nice t-shirt. And then each winner will get a nice Hendrix branded Boston Shaker.
Outstanding, outstanding. So thank you for that. Stay tuned at the end of this episode. Erik's going to be asking you a round of questions, and each person that I think types the answer in the chat the fastest, whoever gets that gets a swag bag. So I guess we'll have a series of questions, and that's how we'll end that. But before we get into all, you know, the meat and potatoes of this, I think we should start with the important things. Let's have a drink. Yeah. Erik, would you like to start with one of these cocktails?
I would love to, thank you. And that's so appropriate right now. For many reasons, I think we should all gather around, even though we're not at a physical table, but a digital one, and have a drink together. So something that I was, truth be told, it's a cocktail that I was working on about 4 months ago, which is a few months before we started talking, gentlemen. And I was looking for an amazing strawberry syrup, and I've been, you know, bartending for quite some time, and we've all had our fair share of strawberry syrups in the world. But this recipe came along around November, December time last year. It's called Secretary Strawberry, or if you have it with Hendrix Lunar, it's called Strawberry Skydancer. I realized, because we're going to get into it a bit later on, but Hendrix Lunar it's a seasonal variation. We're going to have it this year, and I wanted this cocktail to live forever. So I adapted it with the Hendrix Original as well, and it works great. But to start off, when I was starting to mix along with the syrups, and I was experimenting, I realized something that was really, really pleasant, that they were richer in flavor than in sugar, which means that it allows you to bring out so much flavor in the drink. So for built drinks, for highballs, and for like forward flavored drinks, it's a full ounce for me, for most drinks. Maybe 3/4 sometimes, but full ounce really helps, and it doesn't make it too sweet, which is amazing. Fresh is always best, as we say, when it comes to citrus. So I'm going to squeeze in 3/4 lemon here. And note that for all the bartenders out there, when we're looking at balance between sweet and sour, we typically have a little bit more of the citrus than the syrup. But in this case, since the sugar content is a bit lower, we need to adjust that balance essentially. So those are the that's the fruit and the citrus, if you wish. Hendrix Lunar is our newest iteration from the Cabinet of Curiosities, and it is Hendrix Gin infused with flowers that bloom during the nighttime. So you know that in the garden, you know, your garden smells one way in the day, but it does smell slightly different in the night. So Leslie Gracie, our master distiller, she took flowers that bloom particularly during the nighttime, and she infused Hendrix Gin with those, thus creating Hendrix Lunar. So infused with flowers that bloom under the light of the moon, if you wish. As a modifier for this drink, we are adding Chartreuse, but we're not adding green, we're adding yellow Chartreuse, because I believe that the green Chartreuse sometimes is a little bit powerful, and yellow Chartreuse works amazing with Hendrix in particular, but also with strawberries. Has that vanilla tone. So you see what I'm doing there. Trying out the balance real quick to see that we're good. Absolutely. I mix the drink first without ice. Because it is a syrup, it has a bit of texture. So if you do it like this, and then we have the ice here, and add just a little bit of club soda in the end.
What?
Like so.
Not yet.
And then some ice here. It means that the syrup and everything is mixed together, and then we just have to sort of push the ice down a little bit for it to mix completely. I like to garnish it with the strawberry because it's strawberry in the drinks, and I love strawberries. Strawberries are awesome. So, little strawberry down there. It's an upside down strawberry. You want right way as well. Strawberry Skydancer. It is the balance between the yellow Chartreuse and the strawberry, and Hendrix Lunar that has those floral essences that bloom only during the night. Cheers to that. I'm following along the mixing over here.
Here we go. We're ready.
Okay.
Oh, you got two?
Well, there's two of us. Well, there's three of us.
True.
But somebody's already
just-
got their designs on the Passionfruit cocktail. So
I was impressed by the speed,
Cheers.
Robert, but you are in a bar after all.
oh yeah. Yeah. I love the strawberry yellow chartreuse thing. That's one of our favorite. We've loved that combination. It's really lovely.
Yeah, Luke and I was chatting earlier, and he told me that you have engaged with those flavors before in several cocktails. So we were kind of almost giggling over the text
there's
over
a
that
way
one.
you could go from this or do a hot toddy, and there's not much of a change.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you. That's fantastic. So, not to make you sing for your supper right off the bat, but I was hoping maybe you could give us kind of a brief synopsis of a very, very big story, which is the history of gin. Like, we don't have time for the last 400 years of it, but you know, if you could just kind of hit some high notes for us.
We'll hit the high notes a little bit. And in short, essentially the art of distillation was developed over in East Asia several thousand years ago. The technology spread towards the West and ended up in Europe around 1,000 years ago. And the methods of distilling were obviously very different from today, using much more basic methods. But what we do know is that herbs and spices and fruits were used as flavorings for spirits very early on in the 20th century. So those things were already kind of in the happening, in the making. There weren't any liquor companies around, even though we are old family-owned whiskey company from Scotland, William Grant and Sons. 1,000 years ago, the center of knowledge were really in the religious monasteries. And those were the people who made most of the liquor and had the most knowledge of how to do it. So they were infusing spirits with herbs and spices from around the world. Well, not around the world, but locally mainly. But when travel and when trade started to pick up, these infusions became a little bit more advanced, and juniper started to emerge in spirit as we know it today in the late 1400s. At least that has any records of it. There is a gentleman, his name is Philip Duff, who has done a little research on juniper spirits, and he found a record from 1495, and that's the earliest that I've seen. So juniper in spirits. Why is that important? Well, juniper is the botanical or the herb or the spice, if you wish, that gives gin its name. So juniper spirits started to emerge 500 years ago, but it was the Dutch really that started to distill spirits and flavor it with juniper at scale around 350 to 400 years ago. And they did so very successfully. Holland was the center of knowledge and technological advancements 400 years ago, and they were really, really good at it. Fast forward a little bit, the English and the Dutch were allies, and the English went down to Holland to fight in the big wars in the 1600s, most predominantly the 30-Year War, 1618 to 48. And around that time, the English started to pick up a little bit of a taste for this juniper spirit that the Dutch were drinking. So, and by the Dutch at that time, it wasn't the same borders as we see today. We're talking about the lowlands, and the culture and the heritage of juniper spirits at that time was Holland, Belgium, potentially a bit of Luxembourg, parts of France. It was a little bit more a region rather than specific countries. Okay, so what happened then was that the English really picked up a flavor taste for it. They took the spirit back to England, and conveniently they imported a king as well from Holland. His name was William of Orange, and when he took to the throne in England, he started to promote these juniper spirits over there. And juniper spirits, spirits in general, they were not, the English didn't drink spirits up until then. They were drinking beer, mead, maybe wine if they were lucky, maybe brandy, the very rich could, but the English didn't really drink liquor. So when this juniper spirit became very popular and very cheap and available in England, they started drinking a little bit too much. We are now in the mid 1700s. And the 1700s were really the downtime for gin, because the people drinking too much, it was an epidemic, and it was actually, historians have compared it to the crack epidemic. So it was really bad in England, yeah. And I want to bring down any moods right now, but I just want to stress the importance that when people drink very poorly made spirit at very large quantities, there can be some social repercussions on it. Anywho, and health repercussions as well. But what happened in England in the Industrial Revolution is that they got their stuff together, and they started distilling spirits in a very, very much more organized way, if you wish, and much more higher quality. They invented the continuous distillation method. It was developed in the 1820s, patented in 1830. And at that time, they could distill spirits to much higher alcohol content. And mind you, the gins that were the Genevers and the Old Tom gins of England around that time, they were sweetened mostly. And the reason they sweetened was because, well, sugary things taste good, but at the same time, you can also mask the poor flavors that were in the spirits at that time. What happened then in the Industrial Revolution is that when you have a very premium, very clean spirit that you make your gin with, you don't need sugar anymore. And thus the gin became more dry, and there is the birth of the category London Dry Gin. So that's early 1800s, and gin remained largely, well, I wouldn't say constant, but very little changed from early 1800s or 1830s, 40s at least, up until late 20th century. So we have London Dry Gin was a standard, and nobody really experimented on gin after that. And I think I'm going to stop talking there about the history of gin, because here's where it gets a little bit interesting. I can speak for hours about this, as you might know. But I'm going to need a sip or drink. And that is essentially the origins and the history of how gin came to be, very briefly.
Thank you for that. That's excellent. And yeah, it's really a hard story to get into just a couple of minutes, isn't it?
Oh God, it's
so much,
impossible.
there's so much there.
Yeah, it's impossible. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure people will bring up that. Oh, you also could have said, yeah, we could have said stuff for the next 25 years, but we're just gonna give you a little taste before we, as we're tasting, and then I'd love to hear a little bit more, Erik, about Hendrix specifically. Now, it seemed to me that you kind of changed when Hendrix came out. It was kind of a paradigm shift. It was gin was, well, losing market share to vodka, and had been for a number of years. And most people said, or the younger folks would always be like, I don't like gin. It's too piney. It's too medicinal. It's too this or that. And it seemed like Hendrix opened a door for people to say, oh, I like this gin. I didn't used to like gin, but I like this gin. Can you tell us about how Hendrix came to be?
Absolutely. That is such a funny thing you say that, because I've heard that phrase said so many times. I didn't used to like gin, and then like I don't like gin, but this so Hendrix is a bit of a gateway gin, if you wish. And as mentioned earlier, Hendrix or the category of gin was very much of a constant for 150 years. We had the first new developments of gin, the first time that gin kind of changed shape a little bit, if you wish, was when Bombay Sapphire came out in the late 1980s. And it was a gin that was made slightly different. We're gonna go into in detail about it, but it did change the game a little bit when they started to approach the vast volumes of vodka drinkers out there. I don't know what people are doing, but anyway. So vodka was the main drink of preference, and vodka actually overtook gin in 1967 in America. And as you alluded to, vodka was the drink of preference, drink of choice for many years. But mind you, vodka was only introduced in America in the 1940s. So it only had like 2 decades before it became the most sold spirit in the country, which is quite remarkable. Anyway, fast forward to 1999, we at William Grant and Sons.
We seem to be getting some interference here. Is there? I think it's yeah, just a microphone needs to be muted. Understandable, but
it's a trick to mute everyone and then unmute us.
Okay, I think we're good.
In any case, we have, as I mentioned, William Grant and Sons is a family-owned Scottish company, 5 generations, now 6 in fact. And we, in the 1960s, we bought 2 copper stills to make gin. And we brought them to Scotland, where the Hendrix Distillery is at. And in the 1980s, Leslie Gracie started working with us. She is a chemist by trade. And she started working on, distilling spirits and using these 2 copper stills. In 1999, our chairman asked her to develop a new gin infused with roses and cucumbers. And that was quite odd, because nobody made gin that was infused with cucumbers and roses. And why he wanted that was that he wanted to emphasize on that Britishness, cucumber and the rose, of course, a symbol. And then Leslie, she went to a distillery and she started experimenting, and she used those 2 different stills, but she put the cucumbers and the rose in the still, and it didn't work. So she went back to him and said, I can do this, but I can't put the cucumber and rose in the copper still. Why was that even a thing back then? Well, let me tell you, nobody made gin that wasn't London dry gin, but at that time, at least that wasn't premium. So if you want to make a new gin, a premium gin, London dry gin was everything. You didn't make anything else. And she said, well, if you want cucumber and rose, we're going to have to extract those oils using another method, which is vacuum distillation. And if you vacuum distill something as fragile as the rose and cucumber, you can extract those beautiful aromas without the thermal degradation that you receive when you chuck them in a still. You know, in a copper still, it's very, very hot. It's this equivalent of boiling, essentially. So imagine you boil a cucumber. No, it just doesn't work. So, so she did that. She extracted the oils using vacuum distillation. She added that essence into Hendrix, into the gin rather, and she came up with the formula of Hendrix. And she said, "Well, this is our gin. It's amazing. It's not London Dry." And our chairman said, "I don't care. We created a new category. That's fine. Let's go." And that's the birth of Hendrix in the fall of 1999. It was actually first launched here in the United States almost 4 years before it came back to the UK.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Was that a conscious choice because you didn't know how Londoners but the British writ large were going to respond to this not London Dry gin?
There is probably a lot of truth to that. But the most important thing is that the cocktail capital of the world and the country that's led cocktails since forever is the United States. Here's where the cocktail was invented. And gin, as you alluded to earlier, it is a spirit we don't really drink straight. So you need bartenders for this. And because the best bartenders by far were here, we should launch it here. So that's what happened.
Outstanding, outstanding. So you've taken us up till basically the launch of it. One thing that I was also curious about it is when you first saw the bottle. So if we look at a different gin bottle, they were tall for the most part, but they were glass. You could see through them. Was the blackened bottle? Was it like a throwback or a nod to the ceramic bottles of the Genever from before? What was the idea behind this? This particular, like, what was the idea behind the branding of this?
Yeah, and at the time, it made almost no sense at all. And even Leslie Gracie,
I'll agree.
Yeah, and Leslie Gracie admitted to me once that she's the creator of Hendrix, let's just face it. But when she saw the bottle, she was not convinced at the beginning. But she has since said that she's very happy that it came out to be. No, it is not. It is not necessarily a nod to the ceramic bottles of Genever that is those are of Dutch origin, but it's more of an homage to the Victorian era and the pharmacy bottles that was in Britain in the 1800s, where the most precious liquid were kept in black glass to protect them from the sunshine or sunlight. But so it was believed that black glass does protect liquids from sunlight. They probably protect them a little bit, maybe not as much as we hope, but the black glass is definitely an homage to that era. That being said, I know maybe one or two bartenders might be slightly annoyed that they can't do stock take because you can't see it. If you have a bright enough light, I promise you can see it. And also very, very happy to announce that Hendrix Lunar, well, the camera can't really pick it up.
Oh yeah, you can see through it.
That one you can see through, even though you don't seem to see through from like a foot away. If you look at it closely, you can.
Got it. I don't think the not being able to see through it was the bartender's issue. I think it not having a neck to grab might have been the bartender's
that might have been thing, yeah. But and it was all well bartending. We're all talking about like how can you be a quicker bartender only working from a well, and and bottles at that time were 3-4 inches higher on average. So it was like, what? How do I pick it up? Well, I think that many bartenders were very skeptical initially, but quickly realized that it's not that hard to work on. I think it's a little bit of getting used to.
Well, another thing, it seems, now this is from the outside, because I'm not in your company, but hopefully you can speak to this. It seemed like you went like this, the branding is amazing. Like everybody knows it's Hendrix from across the room. All of your, we talked about this off camera before, and you were talking about how everything is tied to, just like the medicine bottles, everything is tied to this idea of whimsy in the Victorian era. But it seems like you were able to get the brand to be such a juggernaut in the marketplace. It doesn't matter how bartenders felt about your bottle. Like we had to have it. You know, like our customers wanted it, so we have it.
We really believe in a philosophy that we call liquid to lips, which is basically you do want to. I'm going to put this one slightly on the side. You do want to, when you try Hendrix, you really understand what the liquid is all about, but it does have that rich world that we think that a lot of people are attracted to, and it's not really the conventional. It's not the path most taken. It is of discoverers, people who want to discover new things, and it is about trying things that, like, challenging the norm a little bit. And that is exactly what happened when we kind of challenged the London dry gin norm of the time. And gin is a huge, very important spirit category in the world, but it was phenomenally stagnant at the time. And as you said, vodka was kicking gins, behind for a very long time, many decades. So we thought that we wanted to come back, and God bless vodka. I think it is a phenomenal type of spirit. I'm Scandinavian myself, so I grew up with that type of spirit. But I think that gin is maybe, if you're a vodka drinker, you're a gin drinker in training, if you wish.
I'm not going to applaud that too loudly.
I stole that one from one of my mentors. His name is Angus Winchester. He was the global ambassador to Tanqueray for God knows how long, very many years. But I think it hits the spot a little bit when gin started to come back. So,
yeah, another way to express that similar idea is that gin is my favorite flavored vodka.
Exactly, and it's flavored in a very sophisticated way.
Well, fantastic. Let's see if we talked about that stuff. And before we ask you to make one more drink, I'd love you to just chat a little bit about. So with other, we know that juniper is the name of the game in gin, or at least it certainly was through London Dry, right? And you all kind of changed the game with the cucumber and the rose, and the juniper being somewhere in there. If somebody asks a bartender, if somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I see you have the Lunar and you have the original. What's the difference?" What should that bartender say? That's true.
Oh, well, we only speak truth here. The difference here is, so Hendrix Gin is the original liquid. This is the first one that we came out with, 1999. And we didn't launch a new Hendrix for many, many years because we believed so much in what we were doing at the time. However, we realized that we wanted to develop something that was, a little bit different and a little bit more niche, if you wish. So all gins that have this diamond on them, that is the Hendrix gin, they start off in the same way. So we have one distillate from the Carter head and one distillate from the Bennett still, two different stills, and then infused with roses and cucumbers to make it perfectly rounded and balanced. That is the house style of it.
Just sorry to interrupt for a second. The second one was a Bennett. Is that the Rotovap?
No. So there's a really good question, and no, the two different stills that we use to make Hendrix, and I hesitated to go into the more technical details, but I'm very happy that you ask it, because
Please.
we have the Bennett still. It's a traditional gin making still, around 500 liters capacity, which is 100 gallons, we steep the botanicals for about 16 hours almost. After the steeping in the morning, you turn on the copper still, you distill the botanicals, and you end up with a distillate resulting in a 500-liter distillate.
So that's like a wet gin still.
Exactly, and that's how gin is traditionally made. You put the alcohol in the still, you put the botanicals in the still. You might steep overnight, you may not, but you distill the botanicals when the botanicals and alcohol are in contact, when the alcohol is in liquid form. That's the main difference. The Carterhead still, it's quite a rare still. To be honest, there are not that many around in the world still. And the Carterhead still is where you put all your botanicals in a vapor box. And the vapor box is around a 3 foot wide, 3 foot wide, about a foot high container where you, it's a net, it's a copper net, where you layer the botanicals 1 up to 11, essentially. So we have citrus peel, we have the juniper berries, of course, the most important one, but the chamomile and the elderflower and all of those lovely botanicals are in Hendrix. And you layer them, and then you let the alcohol vapor push through those botanicals when the alcohol is in vapor form. So the contact is in vapor form versus the contact is in liquid form in the previous step. We use both because even though we have the same botanicals, the methods pick up different things in the botanicals. And that's the key to the recipe of Hendrix, because we want the best of both worlds. We want that pungent, rich, heavy distillate from the Bennett still, the traditional one. But we also love that light, fragrant, floral distillate that comes from the Carterhead, the second one. So
Interesting.
Both, so we get them both in there. And
so I'd always heard, and maybe, sorry to interrupt, but I've always heard, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it sounds like you're saying same thing, that wet distillation, that maceration first, and then it's the distillate is contacting the botanicals while they're wet is for the mouth, and the vapor distillation or dry distillation is for the nose. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe not really. I think it is much more complex than that, but it does have there is much more of a pungent richness that comes from the Bennett still on the palate, and but that floral nose, yeah, maybe a little bit actually. I haven't really seen it in that way before. I'm just thinking about that they complement each other in both ways, but it's a good point.
Okay, and so when does the vacuum still come in there? So there's three different kinds of distillation you guys are doing.
Yeah, exactly. So those those are the two main distillates, and those are copper stills. Those are, you know, the 20-foot high, 15 to 20-foot high stills, more traditional looking. To extract the essence of cucumbers and flowers, you need the vacuum stills, and they are probably less, you know, charming, a little bit more of a laboratory looking, and they are purely there to distill the spirits and extract the oils at around just sub 100 Fahrenheit. Sub 100 Fahrenheit, you don't bruise, you don't really get that thermal degradation from the plants, whatever you want to distill. So that's made separately, completely separate. So we make a cucumber essence, we make a rose essence, and those ones are then infused into the gin.
Interesting. And you do all that in-house?
It's very tedious, yeah. We don't make the cucumber and rose essence ourselves. The reason we don't do it is that we have a contracted distiller that is actually from Holland, and they are experts in floral and herbal distillations in vacuum, and we're just not the best at it. And it goes back to a little bit what Leslie does. Sorry.
Just so when you say you have these experts, they're experts in that kind of distillation. Is that technology like borrowed from the perfume industry? Is that?
They're very related.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, excellent. So so I think I've slowed down everybody's drinking enough with these questions. Maybe we could talk about that next drink.
The next one.
I think we should. And the next one, we are going with the passion fruit, I think. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Excellent.
our
The passion point.
our producer over here is gesticulating wildly. Her love of passion fruit is kicking in.
That's amazing. It's a fruit that I really like as well. And I grew up bartending. One of my favorite cocktails in the world is actually passion fruit Caipirinha.
Ah,
Yep, and I discovered that drink.
she's
while
taken. I'm
traveling-
sorry, she's taken.
You're talking to Claire right now.
discovering that drink while traveling around in Brazil, and the way they make it over there is just really, really cool. But we get into that if you have a moment later. But it is an egg white cocktail, and the reason I want to bring out the egg white cocktail here is that I'm working a lot with a legendary bartender. His name is Dale DeGroff, and we talked recently a lot about.
I'm sorry, who? I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, he's a bartender, and he talks about balancing with bitters and balancing with egg white. And you know, when we talk about cocktail balance, normally we talk about this balance between sweet and sour. But there are many different ways to balance a drink, and to balance it with egg white and bitters is something that I think that every bartender should master. So, doing fresh egg white on camera is always fun. So, I'm very happy that I didn't completely mess that up here. Save the yolk for my carbonara later, and my signature dish at home. I don't want to have a full egg white in this drink because it's just a bit overpowering. So I'm using half, which is well, half an ounce. But for everyone who wants making cocktails at home or in the bar, for that matter, starting with egg white is really good because if we get a little crack of eggshell in there, we can always start over very easily. Yeah. So get that one in first. We can put the egg aside. Passion fruit. It's just like a really, really, really lovely aroma. And I believe, I'm going to check my specs again, but maybe you can take that out. We're looking at a full ounce as well. Yeah. Perfect. I needed to check that one out, actually.
It sounds good. So what you're doing, a full ounce of passion fruit?
Full ounce of passion fruit, yeah. And we are going to go for another 3/4 lemon. And if you have a kind of a standard sized lemon, you typically get 1.5 ounces from them, which means that you get 3/4 from a half. We should end up there, bang on the nose. A lime is typically 1 ounce or 1 ounce and change, and a lemon is 1.5 ounces. In there. And this passion fruit, I think it's a rich cocktail. So what we need to do is that we need to shake it pretty. You need to shake it for quite a long time. We want the dilution in this drink. But what I'm doing is I'm pouring in the Hendrix now. And I think we have a little fun.
This is the best bar shift ever. I've got Luke making all the drinks. I get to watch you do it. This is wonderful.
That's great. That's good.
Reminds me of a normal day.
Something I can recommend as well is to taste the drink before you start shaking it. The reason why we do that is that when we do that, we can actually change the recipe. We can change the balance if we want to, or we can, and we don't have to, take it out of the shaker or reshake it and add ingredients and shake again. So here is where we can make the alterations. In a sense, when you start shaking the drinks, that's where the time where the clock starts ticking. Yeah. So I recommend we dry shake it, which makes the term makes no sense because it's all wet in here. But it gives us a little bit of time to bring out the glass. You can use a cocktail coupe, or you can use a big Nick and Nora if you wish. Did I put my Hendrix in here? I think I did. It has that really rich texture and this foamy feel to it. Really beautiful aroma right now. And I want to add the ice now. And because we have so many really powerful and flavorful ingredients in here now, I'm not particularly worried that we're going to get a lot of dilution. Dilution right now is our friend.
Got a nice beat.
If your ice is a little bit more, if your ice is really wet, you might want to shake it a little bit shorter, but my ice is pretty cold here, so it's good to really get that dilution in.
Whew, working up a sweat.
Cabin in the middle of nowhere. Based on your warning, share time a mile away.
And there we have it. I really like to do a little Angostura bitters drops in the glass. I can't get enough of these garnishes. I know that we've all been doing these for decades, but they're so fun. Like so. The passion point.
Make sure you make my drops into hearts.
Yes. Luke and I are going to split one because the other one's going to, you know, the talent.
The talent needs to have one. There it goes.
Cheers. Passion point.
Passion point.
Smells delicious.
Oh, I love Angostura on the nose.
And it's not as sweet as you may think. It's an ounce of passion fruit in there. It's rich, but it also the egg white dries it out. The Angostura dries it out. So it's actually very crushable.
Well,
And 2 ounces of gin in there to kind of even everything out.
2 ounces of gin, but also passion fruit is inherently very sour.
Oh,
so
God,
yeah,
yes.
we're making a syrup out of it. But like all the other things that we like that are sweet, they're actually either sour or bitter or in some way not sweet. That would otherwise we just eat bowls of granulated
Not
sugar.
a one-trick pony,
Yeah.
you would say.
Yep.
Hmm.
And if you have a slightly less lemon in here, the balance is really quite tight on this one, I think. A little bit
This is
less
nice.
lemon, you get a little bit more of the passion fruit, the sweetness, but then you definitely need a bit more of the ango as well to round that off.
Yeah, I think for springtime, I mean, maybe in the winter time, I'd want a little more richness, but we're coming into spring here.
Yeah.
At least we keep telling ourselves that.
A day or two of weather here and there.
So you know, the first day of anything above 60, we're like, oh, it's spring now. I don't care what happens.
We're ready.
We're ready. So yeah, I want a drink that it's like the idea of drinking those boat drinks in the dead of winter. You're like, I don't care that it's actually cold. I want to drink like it's hot outside so I can fool myself. This seems like a great, very crushable, early warm weather kind of drink.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
Yeah, and passion fruit is so versatile. I just can share that story when I was bartending in London in 2006, 2008. I had one of the best experience in my life, working experience at the Dorchester, the best team I've ever worked with. And I realized there were 5 people above me in the bar. Bar manager, assistant supervisor, assistant supervisor, senior bartender, and me. So I realized that I would never get promoted to anywhere here. So I said, thank you for the wonderful lessons. I've learned so much. And I bought the one-way ticket to Rio. And we went, a few friends of mine, we went down there to go to Carnival. And Caipirinha is obviously a cocktail that was really popular in Europe around that time, like early noughties, you know. So everybody was doing Caipirinhas. But all the bartenders were like, oh, in Brazil, they make it like this. In Brazil, they make it like that. You know, what's going on? But when I came there, Caipirinhas, it's not a fancy drink. It's a very, very basic type of cocktail. And the best ones I had was when there was a guy who had a fridge, or like not fridge, like an esky on his back with a bit of ice, plastic mugs, some passion fruit, couple of bottles of cachaça, and a little bit of sugar, a few limes. And he just went around on the beach just shaking caipirinhas. And he made the caipirinhas shaken. Shake and dump into the glass. And he made it with passion fruit, and he shaked and dumped it into my glass. And you know, I was on the beach, I was quite thirsty, and I looked at him and like, this looks delicious, but the nerdy bartender in me thought it was wrong. But when I tried it, I was blown away. Blown away. And I had many caipirinhas on that 6-week visit to Brazil, and they were all shaken, every single one.
That's how we do it here.
You do it. You shake the caipirinha as well?
We shake and dump. Yeah, it's a caipirinha. Like I couldn't agree more. I love that, and I love the idea that certain drinks are best stirred, certain drinks are best shaken and strained on the fresh ice. But sometimes, especially when there's whole fruit involved, you got to, if it's shake and pour or shake and dump.
Yeah, shake dump.
Yeah,
Product.
It is so rustic, but it was a cocktail that I grew up with that some bartender schools were trying to make into something that had a technique from the 1940s in Scandinavia, where cocktails were probably non-existent at that time, almost. And then, you know, try to make it standardized, while as in the country of its origin, no. Easy peasy, easy does it.
Easy does it, exactly. And even, I think the name itself translates to something like
Hillbilly.
country bumpkin. It's something,
Hillbilly.
it's,
Caipiri means hillbilly.
okay, exactly. It's yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
And it means that it's not meant to be a fancy drink. It's supposed to be a drink.
Excellent for the people.
I love those.
Exactly. And cachaça,
This, however, is a fancy
like
drink.
$2 bottle. It is a bit fancy, and we want to highlight it with the pinky as well.
Of course, I saw that. Pinky's out. Oh yeah.
Pinky has to be out. No, but that's it is. No, it's great. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about your backstory, because you're coming to us from New York, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's clearly not a New York accent I'm picking up.
You don't?
You
No, it is
say
certainly not
yo?
a New York accent. Yo. No, so I think my accent is from everywhere a little bit. I'm originally from Sweden. I've been in the bar industry since '98, approximately, tending bars in a few different places in the world. And I've been with Hendrix for almost 9 years now. So I started off as an ambassador to Asia, actually, based in Hong Kong, looking after East Asia, that little territory over there, but about 10 countries approximately, mainly Japan, China, Singapore, Thailand. And then I moved to New York City with Hendrix for about 4 years ago as the East Coast brand ambassador.
Excellent. Very cool.
I think so too.
So, because a lot of the folks that are tuning in were expecting to be industry folks, how did you make the jump from bartender to brand ambassador?
That's a really good question. I think that I'm really happy to be speaking to bartenders about it, because it's something that some bartenders might look at, and some bartenders might be thinking like, this is the next move in my career. And I was always interested in education. and education was it was around me from both my parents were teachers, and the education was something that like it really talked to me. And when I got the opportunity to be like a teacher's assistant at a bar school back home, I just jumped on it. It was super interesting to be mentoring and teaching. So talking to other bartenders about spirits, about making drinks was passion point. What I did after I started, I suppose, my full-time bartender career, which is a long time ago now, 2008. I went
a long time ago, he
into-
says.
when I stopped full-time bartending, and I went to Brazil, and well, I mean, a couple of coincidences happened. I ended up not going back to Europe. I bought a one-way ticket to Hong Kong. I moved to China and opened a nightclub there in 2008. And I studied the statistics and Mandarin in college, so I speak Chinese. And being able to teach bartenders in China in Chinese was a goal of mine when I was young. I wanted to spread the world of cocktails and hospitality to China, and it was just it wasn't a coincidence. It's something that was really a passion point of mine, and I got to do it at that time, back in 2008. Moved back to Sweden in 2009 and started working for a bar consultancy company called Liquid Management. And our business was to educate bartenders, to develop bar programs, and to work with liquor companies and build their education platform. So if there is, it's an equivalent of being a brand ambassador, but a part-time ambassador at that time. So I was looking after a couple of different portfolios. I was looking after Diageo mainly at that time. So I did a lot of brand work for them. But always teaching bartenders about drinks, about balancing cocktails and, you know, the essentials, but also a bit more geeky spirits, technical knowledge. And what I can recommend to bartenders who wants to get into this type of line of work, whatever it is transforming into these days, is to education and to know stuff is key. You have to be out there, and you need to read books, but also see distilleries. And I put it as an important point for me to visit distilleries wherever I travel in the world. And I think it's important to know how the spirits are being made, because that kind of fuels your inner fire. It's just amazing. You go to Tequila Distillery in Mexico, you go down to Pisco Distillery in Peru. I've been to some very suspicious distilleries of, I think maybe they made arak down in Indonesia. But, you know, like how spirits, how they're made, where they come from. And then, because there's a long way from where they're made kind of to the bar well. But if we discover them at their origin, we know much more about them. That's what I recommend.
That was kind of the whole basis of doing this, because there are a number of different spirits that are doing programs that will send you as a bartender to their distillery. But because of COVID and we can't do that, that was a big point for us, that, you know, we're giving everybody a little bit of more of a behind the scenes.
It's unbeatable, I think, to go to a distillery and see what's going on over there, and to experience at first hand, to meet the distillers, but also see the geographic origin of a spirit it's unbeatable. You know, I went to Tales of the Cocktail around 2000, and the first one was 10, I think. And to go to Kentucky to see the bourbon distilleries there is just mind-blowing for European who haven't been to this before. It's so cool.
Is Hendrix ever going to offer anything like that, like the behind the barrel or the hacienda with Patron?
We did a very small distillery trip a year and a half ago, coming up almost 2 years ago now, with a small group of bartenders. And we were, the whole idea was to build it out much bigger, but stuff happen, as we all know.
Yeah.
But the reason why we didn't do it at a large scale earlier is that we didn't have a brand. We have a brand home, but we didn't have a place to host people and the place to look after people the way we want to. Now we have built a gin palace, and the gin palace is in Girvan, which is a small town in the southwest corner of Scotland on the coast, and it's about an hour and a half south of Glasgow. And that's where Hendrix was. That's where we created it. But now we built a gin palace there as well. So now we can host people at our place, and that's where Leslie has her cabinet of curiosities and her small team of distillers. But we will continue this, and we will bring more bartenders once all of this stuff has gone away.
That's awesome. I don't want to speak for Shannon, but I know that Claire and I would be over the moon with that. But I know you're busy. I mean, you're a business owner, so
I appreciate your desire to not be here.
Yeah, well, Shannon, when you have employees, it's a really good way to,
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. They're here, so I don't have to be.
We would bring the information back.
I could be in Scotland.
But it's a good point. We do have a visitor center at our Glenfiddich and Balvenie distillery. So we are a family-owned company, as you know, and it's a Scottish company. So the Balvenie and Glenfiddich distillery is up in Dufftown, which is about 4 or 5 hour drive north of Glasgow, Edinburgh area. And those are open for visitors. I'm not sure exactly how it is right now, but when it's lifted, we have a visitor center. The one at the Hendrix Gin Palace is not open to public yet. But and if you want to travel to a really cool distillery, I was actually there a couple of weeks ago. The Hudson Bourbon Distillery up in upstate New York is one of our brands as well, and that one is open. If you want to do a little small tasting, it's about an hour and a half north of the city.
So Hendrix, to get back to Hendrix a little bit, thank you for that, sharing your story with us, because that was really, really interesting and enviable. For those of us who wish we could travel more and all that, I really love.
Or you live here in this bar.
Or you just live in this bar and sleep underneath the bar. It's same. Either way, William Grant and Sons is the name of your company, and William Grant, he started Balvenie. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, he founded the distillery. The first whiskey that we made was made at the Glenfiddich distillery, but the distillery was in Glenfiddich, which means the Valley of the Deer. So it's in Dufftown, in the heart of Speyside region, which hosts the most whiskey distilleries in Scotland, most malt distilleries. But the heart of Speyside, the Dufftown, that's where he built the distillery in 1886-87, and the Balvenie distillery he built in 1890-93. So they were built around the same time.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what's it like being the gin in a whiskey family? You guys are kind of the odd man out.
We are, and it's so interesting you ask that, because Hendrix is now the biggest of our brands in the US market.
Not surprisingly.
I had to put it out there. But when I started in the business, and this was in Hong Kong in 2012, gin was minuscule. Gin, and even Hendrix in the company, was not the priority brand. I mean, single malt whiskey in Asia is obviously a really, really important category, and because we are the kind of world leader in a way of single malt whiskey, that was our main thing. And so that's why we only had one Hendrix ambassador in the whole continent of Asia. So I used to be that person who was like, oh, it's Hendrix, it's quite small, that little brand. but as we grew in popularity, I suppose we took a little bit of the attention away from the single malts. I mean, I do love them, but you know, we're gin.
Very well not put. It's like, I love the void we're supposed to fill in your conversation for ourselves. That's great. I think we're ready for another drink. Can we? Are you ready?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay. I got a feeling you were going to say always. So for those of us, for those who are tuning in, just so you know, we were just discussing this run of show with Eric the other day, and it was what, 10:30 in the morning, something like that. And we're talking about the drinks, and he's like, I just need to get you the recipes, but you know, I got to tell you, it's overcast outside. I'm debating a martini, and I'm thinking, yeah, I like martinis too. But then he said, but you know, if I start with a martini now, it's 10:30 in the morning, by the way. I was like, yes, that's probably going to steer the course of your day in a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also an important point, and you know, obviously a very serious one. When you're working for a liquor company, that is, we gotta balance our intake of beverages. I have a cocktail for you that I created, that I came up with, that was just inspired, and it's not like it's a cocktail that I completely invented, but it's a cocktail that I want to highlight for everyone tonight, because I think it's really important to iterate. The reason why I just want to showcase this, and I think that some might have the recipe in front of them, I'll defer to, you know, the alley it up, because when I was and I haven't had the pleasure yet to come to Alley 26, but when I've been looking at the pictures and like what you guys are doing, I think we want to chase and develop some really, really complex and rich cocktails, but we also want to develop something that is very, very, very simplistic, very easy to execute, and just crushable. I reused the word crushable earlier, but I'm going to use it again.
Please.
So, I know, but I think that the crushable is something that we forget these days a little bit. We as bartenders, but also as brand ambassadors, we kind of want to go for something that is the most complex, that has 3 different potable bitters in it, and that has citrus from another continent. And it doesn't always have to be that. So the cocktail with the lemongrass, I would like just to make it really, really simple, because I want to highlight the lemongrass in there, but I also want to highlight a few other things. So when we make a built drink, it's really important to make sure that all the ingredients are mixed properly, but also that they are that the ingredients are not really, you know, overpowering each other. So getting the gin and the syrup in at the same time, you don't really have to stir this anymore because it's already mixed. So I just want to get a little bit of club soda in here. And of course you can use a little bit of a modifier to it. So you can have like a flavored club soda if you wish. And I've been pouring my ice a little bit earlier for you. So it's going to be like so. And then just squeeze in a couple of lime wedges. So this might seem very, very like a very basic recipe, and you know, but before we roll our eyes towards it, I want to say, like, having developed cocktail recipes for a long time, I really find that when we get these drinks that that we can make in 12 seconds, probably, if you are an efficient bartender in a an efficient bar station, as opposed to what I'm doing here. And we can save ourselves a lot of time, but we can also put a lot of alleviate a lot of stress from when we get really deep in the bar. And I really hope that we can get to that point soon again. But it is about diversity in the bar program. Yeah, and highlighting an exceptional product that is not only Hendrix Gin, but also your syrups that really come out and shine. Because I think a lot of people who come to your bar, they really want to experience what you have created, but I don't want to. I want them sometimes unadulterated, if you wish. And I think it's a trend right now, sort of like an anti-trend, if you wish. That we saw 4 or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it started, but 4 or 5 years ago it kind of peaked, where 8 component cocktails was the big thing, and everybody wanted to do something that was really complex. But I think we have an anti-trend now, in a way, that we want something more simple and something that is very, very just straightforward. So
I think that's a great idea. One of the things I think that helped me a lot coming through working here was trying to make a 7-8 concoction cocktail, and then we would talk about it, and by taking something out of it, it would make it better than trying to add something else, and that simplicity would come through. But it really shines.
It does shine a lot. And I also want to say, like, we are looking at a trend right now that we do want to have a little bit less sugar in drinks. And if you want to achieve balance, the way to do that is to have, kind of less citrus as well. So we're not talking about 3/4 ounce in this drink at all, full ounce. 2 squeezes, which is probably, it's less than half an ounce.
Oh, that's just so tasty.
Yeah.
And
Cheers.
I was just
Thank you
thinking
very
about.
much, Eric.
Alley it
thank
up.
you. This is alley it up. I lay it up. It's something that I think that when you're outside in a bar, it doesn't have to be in a fancy glass even. You go back in, you go order another one.
Yeah, honestly, like on a boat in a solo cup would be fine. Like I could drink this out of a plastic cup and be just fine. Like it just like we were talking about the Caipirinha being a little more rustic. This is another drink, I think, that because the whole lime is in there and you want to make sure that the soda is nice and cold, this could definitely be something where you're not even at a bar. This because there's so few ingredients, you can make this travels better. You can make this on site.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was answering emails.
Yeah, I was trying to get a little bit of lemongrass, fresh lemongrass there, but I think you are more in a position of getting them.
Oh yeah, we forgot our garnish. You didn't do it. We were following along. There we go. Lemongrass achieved.
You probably sit on the stash of lemongrass over there.
No, we actually had to go to the store for it today.
Normally, yes, we use a lot of lemongrass, but we did have to go to the store.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, it's something that's crushable, and I think that I was experimenting a lot with the tonics as well, which I really appreciate. And Hendrix and Tonic is something that it's a drink that I really enjoy in the summer. And I think that a gin and tonic is something that we can make it, and we can use like a half an ounce or 3/4 ounce, depending on what your recommendations are. And it provides that richness. But what I wanted to do today is a bit more of the simplicity.
Love it.
I love it.
In order to keep it simple for Hendrix and Tonic, we have it on tap here.
Oh dear.
So it's really simple. You just kind of pull that handle, and then it's in your cup, and it works perfectly. Yeah.
I haven't yet had the pleasure, but I will soon.
Excellent. Well, I think we're all excited about when we can soon. for us here, our governor just said, hey, you can start doing more things. But we're methodical here. So we're waiting until we're going to start upping our service level in the alley. Right now we have an alley, which we're named after, that we've been doing some service in the alley, and it's been fun. We got a cart that we make drinks out of in the alley. And it's been a fun kind of way to interact with our guests, even because we couldn't have them inside. But pretty soon we're going to be able to have them inside. So our next step is we're going to start making drinks inside and kind of running them from our full bar instead of making the drinks at the cart, which expands our ability to make drinks from, instead of 10 bottles and a kegerator, to like a full back bar. So that's exciting. And then gradually,
That starts tomorrow.
yeah.
That starts tomorrow for anyone that needs to know.
So
That's great.
we're gonna it'll be incremental for our guests in town when they come by. Every time they stop by, we'll probably have tweaked the service a little more till gradually, when it's full service, probably end of summer, early fall, we'll be back to our old hijinks inside and doing all that stuff. But it's going to be a series of transformations, and then hopefully by the fall, maybe we can entertain you here in person, and we can do a more like an in-person class, which we're excited about as well.
Perfect.
Well, I think it's time for for some questions. Maybe swag bag time. What do you think?
I think it's time.
Okay.
I can. So I have a couple of a little bit lighter ones, and I have a little bit more difficult ones as well.
Excellent.
But I'll start off on the easy note, and we'll ask admin
So
to
what
monitor
are
the
the
chat.
rules of engagement here before we start asking the questions? You're going to ask the question, and then whoever types the answer first in the chat wins, right?
Exactly. And I'll specify what if I need anything more than a yes or no, or geographic origin might be country and city, or a little bit more specific. So I'll just start off with a really, really shotgun question here. Is Hendrix Gin a London dry gin?
We got a winner on that one. Who was our winner on that one? Colin. Okay. Okay. Colin.
One gone.
Bonus
put his name on that.
Point for the nay, which is of course also correct answer. That was really quick by a lot of people. Just fired off.
Oh yeah. We're gonna put names on these bags, so we know how to get them to.
Good stuff.
Okay, if you're not local, we will ship the swag bag to you. Colin, you're gonna have to come get this tomorrow.
Maybe some stuff missing. Who knows?
Although Luke's already stolen the shaker.
I haven't. I took the socks, not the shaker.
All right, Luke. With those socks in mind, the master distiller of Hendrix Gin, what is her name? First and last, please.
That's a great question, and something we didn't really get into during your conversation was what kind of a forerunner she was as a female distiller in a predominantly male business, especially in 1990, whenever she started. Like, to be the head of something that would emerge to be a global brand, she had to be she was a pioneer. Clearly, she had to be in a small club.
She's absolutely a pioneer, and it's been a bit of a boys' club since the beginning, and up until I don't know, only a decade ago, when I started at scale, female distillers are being hired and starting to get get their names out there a little bit. It's been, unfortunately, I would say, a very like skewed male-dominated job. But we're really, really happy. Leslie is, she's one of a kind, really. She's absolutely amazing. She's from North England originally, and she's a chemist by trade. Started working with us in the late 80s. Yeah, no, she's amazing. And fun fact as well, David Stewart, who is the malt master of the Balvenie, who's been working with us for over half a century. He's retiring soon, but his new apprentice is also female. And she is not even 30 years old. So we have terrific apprentice in the making. Well, she's
after this, we'd love to figure out how we can get her on this program. We'd love to chat with her about what she sees as the future of distilling, and like specifically women's place in distilling. It seems like a moment right now with a number of really high profile female distillers that it might be a good time to have that conversation. I mean, it's always that good time to have that conversation, but we'd certainly love to chat with her. What is her name?
Kelsey McKechnie is her name, and yeah, we'll connect.
So she's Scottish, you're saying?
She's very Scottish, yes.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I got the privilege.
Winner on that second question.
Oh, totally. Randy crushed it.
That's Randy.
Randy.
Yeah.
So Randy, are you local?
I'm in Cary.
He's in Cary. Okay. Can we keep this swag bag for you to pick up here?
Yes.
Outstanding,
Yes.
Randy.
Right, Randy, we got you written down.
Randy, can I ask you, are you in the industry?
No, you and I met at Crook's Corner one evening when I was over there for dinner.
There you are. Yes. Excellent. Yes, I do remember you. Sorry, I don't know the name. Names aren't my thing.
Right.
But yours is now. Thank you, Randy. And we look forward to
bet.
seeing you when you pick this up.
All righty.
And congratulations on the swag bag.
Thank you.
Nice job, Randy. I have a little bit more of a little bit trickier one at this point, and I'm going to have to ask for a country and a town, country and city, if you wish. Where is the Hendrix Gin Palace located?
It's like, I can't say it out loud because they can hear me. Gah!
Heaven. Oh my. Yes.
We've got some fans on the line.
Is that a close but no cigar?
Well, we do have a correct answer in the chat, and it's right next to Turnberry, and it's Girvan in Scotland. So as you know, most gins are obviously made in England, but Hendrix is made in Scotland.
We have some gins made here in the United States as well. You know, we're familiar with the idea.
Only about 1,000 by now.
Only about 1,000, a mere 1,000. Yes.
A mere 1,000 gins. No, the craft distilling in the United States is just remarkable. It's a completely different conversation, but I'm so happy that I think it sprung from the craft brewers movement in the 80s, 90s, where that kind of just boomed. And then the craft distillers popping up maybe 15, 20 years ago, and then it's just grown into something amazing. But yes, there are some
Did
amazing.
we have a winner for
American
the third question? I didn't hear it.
Well,
Sarah.
Steve Bergstrom is the first answer, but
Steve
I think
Bergstrom.
Sarah.
So Steve, same question. Are you industry?
Actually, yes.
Outstanding. Can you tell us where?
In Kansas, of all places.
Hell yeah. We like Kansas. I guess we're going to need your address if we're going to get you the swag bag then.
Well, you can hook up with Jeffrey at that point.
Okay.
Is that the relation?
Yeah,
I meant
this is-
to highlight Jeff earlier in this because Jeff has set up most of this for us, and he's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, we really appreciate all of Jeff's work. He's our local rep here, and he's helped us go up the numerous chains to get in contact with folks like Erik. So we're really, really happy. And we asked a lot of people, but Jeff actually came through certainly a lot more timely than other folks have. Is that sufficiently shady enough?
Yeah.
I hear Kansas has an amazing whiskey selection. So if Jeff wants to go hand deliver this and then pick up an order for us, that's also okay.
He's just telling stories at this point.
Okay.
No, but Jeff and the entire team at RNC has been phenomenal.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Thank you for all of this. I have another question. We have another bag,
Excellent.
right? I have a few more.
Yep. Oh yeah.
We got two more.
Two more.
All right. I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but this is a multiple choice. How long is Leslie Grace's hair? 2, 3, or 4 feet long?
That's a tricky one. We did not cover that.
We did not cover that in the class. And she's not like Crystal Gale's sister or something. So
We have the correct answer by Ali 26 and Adrian as well.
So I guess we're going to go with Adrian.
Adrian, yes. I think we know where Adrian works. Adrian, is this Adrian Lindsay? Yeah. Outstanding.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Okay.
Congratulations,
Can-
Adrian.
Adrian, can you make the commute to pick up the bag?
Or I can walk over and grab some food from you and make a date of it.
Outstanding. Excellent. Excellent.
It is across the street. Phenomenal.
He's across the street. Exactly.
So, Hendrix Gin is a gin that is infused with not only cucumbers, but we infuse Hendrix Lunar with flowers that bloom during the nighttime. But all Hendrix Gin are infused with one particular flower. Which one is that?
There wouldn't be a war about this one, would there?
I think, well, we have two answers and they are the same. So, Dana.
Dana?
That's one for Dana.
Okay, congratulations, Dana.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So Dana,
Yeah,
can you tell us, are you in the industry or you just, how'd you find out about this?
I live in Chapel Hill and I love gin, all kinds of gin.
Fantastic.
So
I
not in the
don't live in
industry.
Chapel Hill, but I do love the gin. Outstanding. Well, so, or do we need to figure out another way?
I will drop by this weekend.
Outstanding. It will be waiting for you here. Dana, is there a last name on that?
Yeah, I'll send
Hello?
it to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, those are our swag bags.
Those are the
Excellent
swag bags.
job.
No, thank you. This has been so much fun. I think it's the first time that I host or I suppose co-host a session like this, an evening like this. So it's been really, really nice. Thank you.
Well, hopefully, we can get more of these going into the future when we can do it all in one room. But it's, in lieu of that, it's really nice that we can do it this way for now. It's better than, this is certainly a lot better than not doing it. And I want to kind of put a pin in this a little bit and just to thank you for doing this and thank everybody that's tuning in. Because, a lot of people have seen enough of these. Where they're like, I'm not tuning into somebody talk ever again.
Zoom,
But
the Zoom fatigue is real. But
It's real.
If we have a cocktail in our hands and we can all get together a little bit, it helps.
Exactly. Well, would you you have if there's something else that I certainly don't want to cut you off. If there's another little bit you would like to talk about, you're welcome to have the second to last word here.
Ooh, the second last word.
Well, Luke always gets the last word.
Try.
No, I just want to say thank you very much. It's been really, really fun to do this with you guys, to make the drinks. And I want to say really well done on all of the syrups that you've been producing, because I am very particular with the flavors that I like, and I just love the stuff that you've been putting out. So that's just super, super good. I can't wait to come to the bar, and I'm really, really happy to be making some drinks with you tonight. I have a little account on Ginstagram.
Ginstagram.
Yes, very dedicated to cocktails of all sorts. Called Young Mr. Flanagan. It's my mentor named me that from the character from the drama documentary called Cocktail with Tom Cruise. So if you want to follow me for some more cocktail recipes, you can do that there.
Young Mr. Flanagan.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
I
think
put it in the chat.
Claire's
there.
going to put that in the chat. Oh, you put it in the chat already. Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we would love to thank you for being here. We couldn't have thought of a better inaugural guest. You're really helping us kind of find a way forward on this, and we're happy and really appreciate your time, your knowledge, your personal story, especially about focusing on education, which is something that here at Alley 26 we really, that's kind of the religion of our bar. It's like we want to learn as much as we can. We love what we do. Talking about flavor, talking about origin, provenance. It really gives us a context for what we do. We really enjoy all of that, and we're growing here and expanding. And come with the come weather, we're going to be looking for other people to help us with that. So if people are tuning in and they're getting interested in this industry, and they like what we're doing here, we're always hiring. Come look us up. That's what I have to say. Luke?
Yeah, thank you very much. I will say next week I'll be a little bit more dressed, maybe a bolo tie, or I think I dropped the ball on that one. But Eric, thank you very much. This was a great start to this series, and you and Hendrix, I think, just knocked it out of the park.
Thank you very much, everyone. No, it's been a pleasure. You guys are awesome, and you're a beacon of light when it comes to sharing and gin-inspiring, if you wish. Okay.
We like gin.
That jokes and puns.
Yeah.
Okay for now.
I'm going to be stealing those. I'm shaking my head now, but I'm stealing them all.
Do it. Just do it.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for
Appreciate
a
it.
very
Good
fun
night, everyone.
evening. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.